This is the all-new Mercedes C-Class, and it's got a very difficult job on its hands because historically this has been a really popular car when it comes to company car buyers, and it's had to take on the likes of the BMW 3 Series and Audi A4, but now we're in a new world, and it's also got to take on electric cars such as the Tesla Model 3, which are considerably cheaper when it comes to company car tax. So has Mercedes done enough to persuade you to move over to this instead of an EV or its rivals? Well, today I'm going to try and find out. But before I go any further, if you like what we do, why don't you give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more awesome videos just like this one. Okay, so it's pretty well known that the Mercedes saloon range all kind of look like the S-Class limousine, but although this new C-Class looks more like the E-Class, it actually has quite a distinct look compared to the S. For instance, the S has got a really big grille, but on here, it's much slimmer. Now, this is the AMG line cars. Most cars in the lineup are AMG line, so you've got a slightly sharper edge around the sides, whereas if you go for the entry-level Sport, you've got a slightly larger yet smoother grille design. You also get the AMG stars if you go for this top range model here. And the base of the bumper is also different too. If you go for an AMG line car, then you get this swoopy element that goes right across the width of the bumper, and we've also got a chrome lip at the bottom, whereas if you go for the Sport, it's a much more simple design. The headlights are a brand new design, and again, they look much more like the E-Class than the S-Class, but again, very distinct compared to the old version. We've got a mix of 17 and 19-inch wheels. The car we have here is right at the top of the spec list. It's the AMG line Premium Plus. So we've got the full 19s, and I love the design because you've got this kind of like band that runs around the center, which is almost like a bit of a dinner plate style wheel that you would see on old Le Mans cars. Now the seat is actually a little bit longer and a bit wider than before. So not only does that give you a little bit more room on the inside, but I actually think the overall silhouette of the car just looks a little bit more natural than the old version. The old version could look a little bit more dumpy. I think this new version is a bit more sleek. Now, there are just a couple of things I wanted to point out at the back of the car. First of all, you've got these really cool little side vents on the AMG line cars, and that does a really good job of making the car look wider without actually physically widening it. Also, it gives it more of a muscular look as well. The exhausts, well, they actually look real. If you put your hand in, are completely fake, which is a bit criminal. And lastly, there's the lights, which, like the side vents, do a really good job of making the car look wider than it actually is. And it also makes it look a lot like the S-Class, which also looks like the E-Class. But if you click the link in the top right-hand corner to watch my review of the S-Class, you'll know that I said that the design actually harks back to the A-Class, which is the cheapest car in Mercedes lineup. No matter which engine you go for, and there are many, many different variants to choose, all versions of the C-Class come with some form of electrification. Now, the petrol range starts off with the C200, which is based around a 1.5 litre four-cylinder petrol engine, developing 204 horsepower. And if you want a bit more punch from your petrol, you can go for a C300, which gets a 2-litre engine and produces 258 horsepower. That's good for a 0 to 62 time of 6 seconds flat, which is actually 1.3 seconds faster than the C200. On the diesel front, we've got the C220 and C300D, both of which are based around a 2-litre unit and produce 200 and 265 horsepower, respectively. Now, no matter which car you go for, you'll get a 48-volt mild hybrid system, which gives you 20 extra horsepower, which is good for a little boost when pulling away from a set of traffic lights and can help eke out a little bit more fuel. And if it's a plug-in hybrid that you're after, then you're in luck because there's the C300E, which takes a 204 horsepower petrol engine and mixes it with a 124 horsepower electric motor. Now, as the name suggests, in a PHEV, you can plug it into the mains and charge it up for up to 62 miles of electric running. Now, all cars in the UK come as rear-wheel drive, although you can get 4MATICs in different parts of the world. We should be getting 4MATICs here in the UK at some point, but as of early 2022, they're not here yet. Now, although the C-Class is a little bigger than before, the boot is actually the same size as the old car at 455 litres in the saloon. And while that's by no means small, it's actually a little bit smaller than rivals, the BMW 3 Series and Audi A4. It also shrinks to 365 litres if you get the plug-in hybrid, as the batteries are in the boot. Good news is, though, if you want an estate, then it's actually a little bit bigger at 490 litres with all the seats in place. Now, you actually have a little bit of underfloor storage in here, which you can put some tyre repair kits if you want down in there. Also some netting to one side, but a really nifty feature is you've got these buttons at the side to quick release the rear seats if you need a little bit more space. We usually see a lot of technology launch in the S-Class and then trickle down to the cheaper models, but I wasn't expecting the cabin of the C-Class to bear such a strong resemblance to the much more expensive S. For instance, you've got this swooping cabin design where you can have different finishes on the dashboard and center console. Now, we've got this kind of faux style carbon fiber here, which isn't quite to my taste, but you can get wood finishes which look so much more classy. There's also ambient lighting all over the place, so when you're driving at night, you can bathe the cabin in whatever color you want. You've also got a leather finish to the top of the dashboard, which integrates these 3 central air vents. Now, they're not exactly the same as what you get on the S-Class, but they still feel built to a really high standard. And on models higher up the range, you can get Burmeister audio, which just sounds fantastic. AMG line cars get this sporty wheel with split spokes in the center and touch controls, but if you go for the very entry-level car, you get a much more simple design. But the biggest similarity between this and the S-Class is this central infotainment screen, which seems to merge seamlessly with the center console. Now, it's running the latest version of Mercedes' infotainment software, MBUX, and personally, I think it's one of the best on the market. And not only is it really sharp and vibrant, but it's very responsive, as if it were some dedicated piece of technology like an iPad or a smartphone. And that's paired up with one of the most striking driver displays on the market. It makes you feel like you're in a much more expensive car than you actually are. It's customizable too, so you can either stick with the classic mode, or you could change things up by going to sport, which gives it more of a reddy hue, or you can see the full view of the sat-nav. Now, this is the absolute top spec 300D AMG line Premium Plus and comes pretty much fully loaded with kit, other than driver assistance, which you'd need to add another £1,000 on top of the price. And it all comes in at £52,000, although you can become a C-Class owner for as little as £39,000 if you go for the C200 Sport. Now, PHEVs start off at around £45,000, and it's really worth looking into because not only do you get that all-electric running, but they're considerably cheaper when it comes to company car tax. Although still won't quite match up with a fully electric car, which has company car tax in the single figures, but if you're still worried about range, then the PHEV might be the one to go for. Now, as the wheelbase has been stretched by 25mm, there's more legroom in the back of the C-Class. Now, I'm just under 6 foot and the driver's seat's in my position. There's still quite a bit of spare knee room. So if you're 6 foot and over, you shouldn't be too crammed in the back. Headroom is not too bad, although if I sit up straight, it does begin to get a little bit tight. So if you are over 6 foot, you might find that headroom is going to start getting a little bit of a squeeze. Now, because the car's wider, you've actually got a little bit more arm room as well. So you just feel like it's a little bit more spacious than it was before. We've got an armrest with a couple of cup holders, which is very handy. Now, in this car, we've also got climate controls that we can adjust in the back. But what I really like is you've still got more ambient lighting back here, which just makes the C-Class feel really posh. So to kick things off, I just wanted to show you the reversing camera on here because it's seriously cool. So I'm just going to pull up to a space and whack it in reverse. And then on the screen here, we've got a really crisp and clear image. However, what I can do is if I press this button here, I can actually get a 3D model of the car that comes up, which means it's so much easier to park. Now, you still got to use your mirrors, but if I then get it into its space roughly, I can use the image to basically just make sure that I'm in the white lines properly. And it's also a really good way to check the back of your car. Again, keep using your mirrors, but I can hear the parking sensors going off and I can see that I'm pretty much towards the back of the space. But it's something that we've seen on more expensive cars before, but on a car like the C-Class, that is really, really handy. Anyway, I'll take it out on the road. And technology is a really big factor in the C-Class and what really sets it apart from the competition. So for instance, you've got this really cool augmented reality sat-nav system. So I'm meant to turn left at the roundabout here, and you can see on this 3D image that the arrow, you get basically a live video of what's going on in front of you, and it'll give you an arrow showing you where your exit is, which is just so handy. And I've also got it on a head-up display in front of me. Again, that's something we saw in the S-Class and also the new E-Class, and you can watch my review of the E-Class by clicking the link in the top right-hand corner. But still, to get it in a C-Class, it just makes the car feel super high-tech and expensive. Another cool feature is the semi-autonomous driving modes. Now, these are an optional extra costing about £1,000, but it's seriously clever. Now, not only can I just join a road, set the limiter, and it'll match the speed limit of the road, which here is 60, but it'll actually actively slow down for corners and roundabouts. So I'm just approaching a roundabout at the moment. My feet are completely off the pedals and hands off the wheel, and it's slowing down. I've got to take over to actually get round the roundabout, but it just takes some of the pressure off driving. And technology aside, the C-Class really is very comfortable indeed. So it doesn't come with air suspension, but the adaptive dampers do a really good job of ironing out most bumps and lumps in the road. In comfort mode, it's not exactly the same as an S-Class, but it doesn't feel that far off. It's just quite a wafty, smooth experience. And the only noise I'm really getting through the cabin is the sound of a bit of water, because it's an incredibly wet day and the roads are sodden, and also a slight grumble from the diesel engine, but I've heard much, much worse diesel engines. This feels pretty refined and pretty smooth. And speaking of comfort, the C-Class is a little bit complicated. So we have adaptive dampers on here. You don't get air suspension, not even as an optional extra. And for the most part, it does a really good job of providing a very smooth ride. However, I've noticed that there's the odd little ripple and bump that can be sent through the cabin. And I don't think it's actually the ride quality. I think it's more to do with the wheels. We've got the 19-inch wheels here, which is currently the largest you can get in the C-Class range. And I think that's what's contributing to just the odd little bump and shock being sent through the cabin. It's certainly not bad, and at no point has it felt jarring. It's just, if you're expecting an ultra pillowy ride as if it were an S-Class, you might just notice the odd little bump that comes through if you go for one of the larger wheel options. Noise isolation is actually pretty good, and we've got a really good test for it today, because not only do we have the larger wheels, but it's a wet day and we've got the diesel engine. Now that's usually a trifecta of noises that will be transmitted through the cabin, and while you can hear the odd little puddle here and there, very small grumble from the engine when you put your foot down, and there's a tiny amount of road noise, it's actually really quiet in here. The only thing that's making a noise is, well, me. Performance is pretty punchy too. I've got the most powerful performance is pretty punchy too. Again, in the C300D here, 265 horsepower plus that 20 horsepower 48 volt system, and it feels pretty nippy. What I will say though is that in sport mode on a wet day, you can feel this is rear wheel drive. If you give it a little bit too much vigor in one of the many roundabouts that we have in Milton Keynes, you can definitely feel the rear wanting to slide around a little bit. All the computers on board will keep it in check, but I think Mercedes is really going to have to launch the 4MATIC soon if you want that ultimately effortless drive. Now, admittedly, I think a BMW 3 Series is more fun to drive. And also, I think an Audi has a slightly better build quality when it comes to the interior. But as a package, I think the C-Class has got a very flashy interior that feels very premium indeed. And it's got the technology from the S-Class, which I'd argue could compete with some of the best on offer from the electric car makers, and they really know a thing or two about making good software. So if you want a high-tech company car that drives well, makes you feel like you've really made it in life, but you don't want to go electric, then I think this new C-Class is an excellent choice.